What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Faded Blue Line podcast. I am your host, Brandon Roberts. Get my video going. Let me get rid of the steering wheel here so you don't see that. Alright. So, thank you all for joining. Make sure you hit subscribe down below. Share this podcast across all the lovely social media platforms for me if you don't mind. Get some people listening. Today, I really hope you guys join me on the chat either on YouTube or get on Discord. Join me in the chat there, and I will bring you down to have a voice chat if you want to get on the air today. So, today's episode, we're going to go over a couple things. First thing is going to be basically, is a formal education worth it? College education versus street smarts when it comes to police work. What is the better option? And if you decide that you need a formal education, is it financially worth it? And are there options out there for you? The second part of it will be earlier today, I believe it was today or it was yesterday, one of the two. Sean had made a comment on the III Interdiction Facebook group about times of seizures, the statistics of times of seizures, and to just get out there and work. We're going to discuss why that's important. So, to start off today's episode, like usual, we will go over police news. Alright, as of 1 hour ago, the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office is pushing to halt death penalty prosecutions and reduce cash bail. Man, they are just setting themselves up for disaster all over these places, are they not? Who thinks that is a good idea to halt all death penalty prosecutions and reduce cash bail of criminals who get arrested? Is there anybody out there in the law enforcement community who thinks that is a good idea to release these people with less bail than they already get if they aren't just PR bond as it is? And who thinks that if there's anybody out, let's have a debate. Is there anybody out there who is against the death penalty or for the death penalty for certain crimes? Go ahead and post that in the comments. I'd be interested to hear what you guys have to say about that. I'm sure there's probably some dispute going on there between some cops. So let's see here. New York City Representative-elect Nicole Malliotakis, I think is how it's said, Malliotakis, says Alessandra Ocasio-Cortez, her growing influence in New York politics must stop, and that it's dangerous. That's pretty interesting. Let's see here. I'm trying to find if there's anything new. Portland home struck by over 50 bullets. And there were 83 shell casings outside the house. And the police have responded to multiple shootings over the last 3 days. Keep on defunding them, police. Keep on defunding them. Let's see here. Retired Chicago Fire Department lieutenant fought back against 3 suspects attempting to steal his car before he was fatally shot last week. Our thoughts go out to that lieutenant from Chicago Fire Department for standing his ground. Florida police have raided the home of fired health department a former fired health department data scientist who built the state's COVID-19 tracking system. Not sure why he was raided, but it says he was fired for insubordination. Alright. An Alabama sheriff's office removes the Thug Shots Christmas tree after death threats were received. I think I saw something about this the other day. Mobile County had put a Christmas tree up about, or in their lobby, I believe, and it showed pictures of wanted thugs, and they called it the Thug Shots Christmas tree. And apparently, local civil rights activists,
At least.
oh geez, the NAACP have threatened that. They need to get rid of that. Gosh, what is going on? And they received death threats from local gangs. So they have removed that from their lobby. So not a whole lot of news in out there today. Again, we our thoughts go out to the Chicago Fire Department lieutenant who lost his life fighting against some thugs who were trying to steal his car, carjack him. Sad, sad thing. All right, let's go on to the topics of today's episode. Let me get this going. College degrees. Are they worth it? Do you think they're worth it over street smarts? Do you think that agencies should focus more on hiring people with degrees and formal education? Or do we think they should be hiring people who have street smarts, maybe some experience in the streets? I'm sure we might get some comments, hopefully on this one, from especially guys who are FTOs who have to experience the different types of rookies and new green officers that are out there. I'm going to start with a little bit of a story and talk about my when I came into law enforcement and what I saw over the years coming through. So I started in law enforcement in 2001. Yes, to some of the old timers, I'm a baby, but I've got roughly going on 20 years experience now. But in 2001, my academy, just like most academies, I don't know how all states are, but in the state of Florida, the academy system is a moneymaker. They have private academies, usually attached to colleges or vocational schools, and if you pay, you play. It's the way it boils down to. So they pump out a bunch of, I wouldn't say unqualified candidates, but candidates who likely would not get in the career. But it was very regimented. It was very, very much like going to boot camp. Our PTs were run by a former drill sergeant from the Marine Corps. And when we got in trouble, he was the one who came out and smoked us, and we got smoked a lot because our class decided to make fun of the Corrections Academy, and we paid dearly for that while they sat and watched us get smoked over and over again. But the academy was still about being tough. They taught you to be physically and mentally tough versus book. Now you were expected to be book smart and learn the laws that you needed to learn, and you were expected to learn the processes and all that kind of stuff and pass the tests. But they weren't teaching you necessarily to pass the test. They were trying to teach you how this all works, and at the same time toughen you up and make you more physically fit. And so when I left the academy, we at the time they were still focusing on it being like a boot camp. And sometime around mid 2000s, I want to say 06, 07, if I'm correct, Florida changed their system to be more of a friendlier academy, where they wanted people to be more educated versus the toughness of being in a setting that was more like a boot camp. And I don't know what they're like now, but that it kind of transitioned at some point into that type of atmosphere. And I noticed a pretty substantial change in quality of the recruit. Not only that, but agencies started to really, really focus on trying to hire people with degrees, making it requirements to have bachelor's degrees or associate's degrees. And that was also showing to when it with the recruits coming into employment, there was a significant difference in work quality, attitude, and toughness when it came to this push of degrees, as well as this push for softer academies. Um, and I went overseas and did some work as a contractor. And when I came back, got back into law enforcement, and saw a huge difference in quality of recruit rookie green right out of the academy. And what I noticed was, one, they weren't tough. When I started, we didn't have tasers. Tasers didn't come out till later on. You had your ASP, you had your pepper spray, and you had your fists, and you would either learn to talk or you'd learn to fight. And especially when you worked in very rural areas like I did, my backup was a good 30, 45 minutes away easily, if I even had backup. So you learned to talk a lot. And it seemed that the newer generation of cops were losing that. And they also were losing their toughness. They were shy to get into confrontations. They relied heavily on the taser. They dodged paper like crazy. They did not want to take reports. They'd do whatever they could to avoid those things. You know, when I worked for a particular sheriff's office in Florida, in north central Florida, um, traffic stops took priority over calls. So if you called on a traffic stop right when a call was coming in, you were assigned to that and not assigned to the incoming call. So some of these guys would actually intentionally see a call popping up on the screen and go try to make some traffic stop to avoid a call. So it was pretty disturbing to see the trend of law enforcement, the way it was going. And one thing that stuck out in my mind was, I remember this call. I was working a zone right next to what was considered our rougher zone, which I normally was in the rough zone, but for some reason they needed help in the other zone, and I think somebody called in or something, and I got assigned to the neighboring zone. And a call for a shooting came out, and it was in our hood, and policy was the first two units would run code. The two closest units would run code, and all the responding units coming after those two units would not run code. Um, well, I remember coming down this. We had this long road called Tower Road, and I was getting on Tower Road from, I believe it's Archer Road, and you can see Tower Road was like a straight shot for miles, and it led straight to the hood. And ahead of me, I could see lights going. Uh, so I knew somebody was responding on Tower Road ahead of me, maybe a mile or so, if even that. And of course, you could pop up the GPS and see who it was. Well, I did that, and I saw that it was one of those new rookies who had been in had a pretty considerable problem with dodging calls. Well, all of a sudden, I see his lights turn off, and he turns onto a side street, and there was no reason to do so. So I continue on. I end up being the first one on scene when I was the next zone over, and then he popped up after two units arrived on scene. So not only was he dodging the call, he didn't want to be the first one on scene, and he was college educated in the younger generation and went through the softer academies. So it kind of, I started to wonder, some people who might be older generation, maybe went through college in the late 90s through the 90s or early 2000s, still have that toughness about them. But it seemed like anybody mid 2000s on did not have that toughness about them. So, I have a debate internally whether or not I think a college degree is necessary. Some of these agencies who require a college degree, do you really think that is the best option? Is that something that really you think they must have? to work for your agency. Now, I get it if you have somebody you're trying to put, or you want somebody who's going to be in a brass position, higher than sergeant, higher than like a field supervisor, having a degree of some sort. I can kind of understand that they need to have some kind of business and management sense about them. But the road officer, do you really think it's necessary for that degree? Now, I went and got my degree in criminal psychology after the fact, after I started law enforcement. And that kind of, was it worth it? Is a huge question to me because I have a pretty hefty chunk of student loans that are due. Um, and I don't know if it was really worth doing so. Um, so let's look at some stats here, and if you're watching on the screen, you'll see exactly what I'm showing here. Florida, for instance, has an educational incentive for uh, police officers, and the state funds that. They basically reimburse your agency. It's a fund for them. And this is what Florida's legislator thought was a good incentive for you to have degrees. If you have an associate's degree, they give you $30 per month. That's your incentive pay, $30. If you have a bachelor's degree, it's $50. And if you have a master's or PhD, it's up to $130 a month extra pay in your check as an incentive to get those degrees. Now let's correlate that with Austin, Texas, and see the difference there. Um, Austin, Texas PD's website lists that if you have an associate's degree, you get $100 extra a month. If you have a bachelor's, you get $220 extra dollars per month. If you have a master's, you get $300 per month. And if you're bilingual, you get $175 extra a month. So bilingual to them is more important than you having almost a bachelor's degree. So here's the issue I have with these incentive pays, and you guys may agree, you may disagree. I checked on this. The average student loan payment is $393 a month, and those payments go on for 10 plus years. 10 plus years, $393 a month. What incentive is $30 a month from the state of Florida? $30 a month when your payment just for getting the degree that they want you to get is $393 per month. Is that even an incentive to go get a degree? I mean, you have your average associate's degree level college student who goes on student loans has over $30,000 in debt when they are done. $30,000. You can work your entire career at $30 a month of incentive pay and still never even touch the amount due in your student loans for an associate's degree. Not let alone a bachelor's or master's or PhD, which you're talking in the six figures. So it's almost insulting that the legislators in the state of Florida thought that $30 a month, $50 a month, and $130 a month was an incentive to go get an education. When the only way you're making more money with those departments usually is a step program where you get years of service to get extra pay, whether you have a degree or not. And then some of the times you will need a degree to move up in rank, which would come with significant increases in pay. But I mean, still, this is your incentive to get a degree, is to give us not if you have an associate's degree and you're paying $393 a month on your student loan, the incentive pay isn't even 10% of that payment. Why do you require these degrees when you don't even incentivize them enough to make it worth it? You're going to be in debt for your entire career, yet the incentive pay won't even touch 10% of the associate's degree loan payment. That makes no sense to me why they would do this to law enforcement officers. Um, what is the incentive to do it at that point? I mean, why would you want to do that to yourself? To go in that much debt for $30 extra a month, or $60 or $50 extra a month, or even $100 extra a month in, say, states like Texas. Now, if any of you guys are listening on the podcast who maybe live in states where they incentivize it um, more, let me know what your state. Go into the chat and let me know what your states say about incentivizing education. Um, and how many of you guys that are listening right now actually have education or don't have education? Um, I know a lot of people do not have college education, and law enforcement, aside from like trades schools like welding or HVAC or anything like that, sometimes law enforcement is one of the best paid in certain states careers you can have, um, especially when it comes to benefits and pay without a college education. But it all depends on where you're at. Um, so let's say you want to go to college, you want to get your education. I wanted to get a degree um, in criminal psychology, and it actually helped with the creation and development of the evading honesty system. Um, I'm also about to continue working towards my master's in um, health sciences, which will also help towards the evading honesty. And then I'm also thinking about getting maybe a minor in business administration or management or something. Um, but if you have to get a degree, and let's say you have to do it to advance your career, you want to move up to sergeant, and it requires at least an associate's degree, or it requires a bachelor's degree, or you want to move into lieutenant, shift commander, whatever it is, and you need that degree, or even CID, or whatever it may be. Is there options where you don't have to lose money for the next 30 years of your life paying student loans? Uh, there is. I have actually found something recently that I wanted to share with you guys as an option. So let me pop off my camera here. So I found this thing called University of the People, or uopeople.edu. U as in uniform, O as in Oscar, and then people.edu. Now, what is this place? It is the world's first nonprofit, uh, American accredited, tuition free university online. Now, there are a lot of really shady online universities out there, and colleges that are, for lack of better terms, moneymakers. What's interesting about this is it's tuition free, and it's accredited. So I started looking into it. Is it legit? I had that question. Is it a legit option? Will anybody look at this degree as a legit thing? And I kind of started finding some pretty interesting things about it. So, um, one of the first things I found is that it is led and created by former leaders of some of the world's leading institutions, some Ivy League institutions, some real high-end institutions. A lot of former deans and high-ups in the boards of these schools created this. So we got people from New York University, Columbia University, UC Berkeley, Rockefeller University, and they operate with 17,000 professional volunteers who are teachers, curriculum developers, administrative people who are there helping students. And they partnered with corporations such as Amazon, Bell, IBM, Microsoft, JP Morgan, and other real big global level corporations for, I don't know if they supplement them or if they pay them or donate to them, but these corporations have accepted their students into employment. So obviously, if it's being created by some of the leading people from renowned universities, that caught my attention. And then on top of that, it it's partnering with these giant corporations who are hiring their students for tech positions, sales, administrative, um, you know, all kinds of different things. And I was like, huh, this is pretty interesting. There's no way it's free. There's no way. There's no way this is free and you get a legit degree. Well, it's not necessarily free. Um, the tuition is free. You can sign up. I think it costs 60, 50, or $60 as an application fee. Um, and then you start your degree online, and it's 9 week quarters. I think it's 5 9 week semesters per year, um, and each class is completely tuition free. However, to test for that class at the end of the class, you have to pay a $120 testing fee. They don't call it a testing fee, but that's basically what it is. You're paying $120 to take the test and get credit for that class. Um, but when you think about that, that's not a lot of money. Some books in college costed me more than that. So if you can go and get a degree, even if it's just an associate's, where you're only paying $120 a class versus several hundred to $1,000 or more per credit, um, it's a lot better option than going massively in debt with a Fed loan or whatever student loan you go with. Um, and then the incentive pay that you get for that degree in, say, a state like Florida is a little bit more reasonable. Um, so that is one of the options that I have found. Another thing that I thought was pretty interesting in states like Mississippi, no, not Mississippi, but in Texas. Texas has what they call the Texas State Guard, and the Texas State Guard um, has a tuition reimbursement program. And if you join the State Guard, which is it's basically a branch of the state military. It is considered the state military, just like the National Guard. They're considered equal, but they don't deploy overseas, and their focus is on side rescue efforts, stuff like that. And you get a lot of guys that are former military that want that life still in it. Um, they do tuition reimbursement to any Texas university or college. So you could go that route and go to classes. You might take one class a semester and have them pay it back. So these are options for you as well. I think Texas does that for law enforcement too. They have some kind of program for law enforcement. I don't know about other states, but these are things that you can do to get a degree program if you necessarily need one. Um, but going back to the original conversation that we had at the beginning, is it worth it? Um, do I think it is necessary to have a degree in law enforcement? No, I do not. I know numerous really, really good police officers who are extremely street smart. Maybe they grew up a little rough, excuse me, um, and they have the street smarts of how to be a cop because of being a borderline criminal when they were young, and they make far better police officers than some of these overly educated people coming out of college that I've seen. So I don't think it's necessary, but I understand that there are agencies that require it. There are agencies that maybe you're trying to lateral to that require it, or maybe it is a requirement for you to do for your agency to move up, and that's why I started looking into different options for people. In University of the People was one of those things that I found, and it seems like it's pretty legit. Now, what I've noticed is it seems that there's a lot of foreign students. A lot of foreign students take advantage of it when they get here on a student visa or whatnot. Um, so you may have that. Uh, John Travis says at the end of the academy you have an associate's degree. That depends on where you are. In Florida, you did not. I did not have an associate's degree when I left the academy in Florida, and I know in Mississippi they do not leave the academy with an associate's degree. Now, some of what you did in the academy gets transitioned over if you want to go to a college and get a criminal justice degree, but not very much. I don't remember how many of my credits were transferred over from the academy to that. It wasn't much. It was maybe 3 or 4 classes, um, but that was for Florida. So I don't know what state you're in, um, but I know in Florida it does not give you a degree in criminal justice. Now there are programs you can go to, I'm sure, at the colleges in Florida where it is a criminal justice degree with an academy kicker on it, I guess you'd say. Um, but John Travis, where are you based out of? Where you get a degree? Um, some places, you some places I do know they do give you an associate's degree, but I'm assuming it has a lot to do with where you're going to school. Um, some of the I know when I went to the academy in Florida, it was not a degree program. It was a vocational certificate program. So we'll wait and see if he gives an answer on that. All right, moving on. So we're gonna now talk about what Sean was talking about earlier today or the day yesterday, or whatever it was, and it was people saying that, oh well, most loads are hit Monday through Friday, or between the hours of 8 and 5 in the daytime. That's when the intel bulletins say most loads are hit, um, and those statistics are, without lack of better terms, they're bullshit. And here's why. When you hear that in an intel bulletin that most of your seizures occurred, or most of the reported seizures occurred Monday through Friday between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., and then you got people that will tell you, "Oh man, we got to work those hours. That's when most people are hitting." Um, think about that. Why is that flawed? Most of your full-time interdiction guys uh, work bankers hours. They work Monday through Friday, holidays off, daytime hours. They want to go home. They want to watch the football games. They want to go have their weekends and holidays off and go do things with the family. And they have the opportunity to do that. A lot of them. So a lot of your teams do not work night times or weekends, or sometimes they come out every once in a while. But a lot of them have bankers hours. So when do you think the most seizures that are reported to these intel centers occur? When those teams are out in the daytime, Monday through Friday. Does that mean that that your organizations, your criminal organizations, are stopping? Oh, it's 5 o'clock. Oh, I'm clocking out for the day. No, hell no. Most of my time working interdiction for the task forces, I was out at nighttime. Um, I very rarely worked in the daytime, and I hit plenty loads at nighttime. We are talking about an industry that is probably bigger than Walmart or Amazon. We're talking hundreds of billions of dollars of drug profits um, per year, and a giant network of organizations and transportation organizations and sales organizations um, that are working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It does not matter. Um, when I worked in Meridian for the Homeland Security ICE unit there with Sean, um, the narcs in the area hated me because I would work the holidays, 4th of July, Christmas, New Year's, stuff like that, and hit loads. I hit load on 4th of July. I hit a load, I think it was Christmas or Christmas Eve. Um, and they have to get called out for that, and they did not like it at all. Um, if you think that Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, is only when interdict or when loads are being hit, you want to think that because that's when you want to work. You want to be home at night. You want to be home on the weekends, and you want to be home on the holidays. You don't want to go out and work the crappy hours in the middle, the middle of the night, and you don't want to work the holidays. I did. I liked working at night. I found it was easier. At nighttime, you get rid of a lot of that local city to city traffic on interstates. Um, and most of your traffic coming through are either drunks, truckers, or people on a long journey. Um, so it made it a lot easier to be a target rich environment than working in the daytime when you got thousands of vehicles that are traveling between cities for work or for business travel or whatever it may be to go see family in the next city over or a couple cities down the road. It got rid of a lot of that working at nighttime. Um, but you got to stop looking at these intel bulletins and thinking that this is you know, God's word. This is the Bible of interdiction. These intel bulletins that are being pumped out by these analysts sitting in offices, they are not out on the road. They get intelligence, they get data, they get numbers that are put in front of them on a desk, and they formulate this stuff. They put it all together and they shove it out there as an intel bulletin. Like we discussed last week, this is why indicators don't work. These people who are getting this data, they're not getting the negative data. They're only getting when people report a seizure to them. They're not getting the hundreds of stops that these guys are making searching cars and not finding anything. So the stats are flawed, just like these stats are flawed with times and days of seizures. Most of your special operations teams, most of your specialized units, other than DWI or DUI units, and NARCs, um, they work bankers hours, man. That's what they want to work. So your stats are going to be flawed when it comes to that kind of stuff. Does anybody have any questions? I know John Travis had that comment about you get an associate's degree at the end of the academy. I asked what state he's in to see if anybody can narrow that down for me. But when I went to the academy 20 years ago in Florida, it was not a degree program, not even close to a degree program. Even though you had a ton of hours in the academy, God, it was 700 hours actually in the academy. Um, you did not get a degree, and very little of that transferred over when I went to school for a degree. Um, I want to say they gave me I think it's 4 classes, and it was like policing in America in something else. I don't remember. So, does anybody else have any questions, any comments out there? Um, what do you guys think of the? Do you guys think a degree is necessary in law enforcement? Do you think it is a waste of your time to get one? Um, I'm gonna bring back that slide real quick for those who might be tuning in late. Um, about where's it at? Stand by. I'm trying to find it. There it is. Um, about incentive pays. Look at the amount that the average person pays on their student loan payment, $393 a month, with a massive amount of interest for probably 10 plus years. Um, and these are the incentive pays. This is the Florida state incentive, which the state gives you for associates, bachelor's, and master's, PhD. And this is just say like the capital city here in Texas, Austin PD, what their incentive pays are. None of which remotely even come close to the student loan payment for the average associate's level student loan payment, $393 a month. And if you're paying $393 a month for a PhD or a master's on your student loans, you're going to be paying for the rest of your life on that payment. So they've got, if they want these degrees and they want education in the law enforcement community and the administrations and the cities and the communities want degrees, they need to incentivize a lot more than they are to make it worth even doing. Because why go get a master's degree or a bachelor's degree to make $50 to $150 extra a month, which doesn't even touch the amount of your student loan payment, and really doesn't increase your pay? It doesn't make sense to me why these places would want these things and not incentivize them a lot more than they are. So, is there anybody listening right now who has a degree and gets incentivized by your agency or your state? Um, well, like you get a decent incentive for being having a associate's, bachelor's, master's, PhD, or whatever. If you got a PhD and you're in law enforcement, I don't know what the hell you're doing in law enforcement, to be honest with you. But I did know a guy that I used to work with who had a degree in chemical engineering, um, and he was it chemical or mechanical? I think it was chemical engineering, and he got in law enforcement because he was bored with chemical engineering. Um, and I also had a guy who worked for me as a reserve years ago in Florida, who had his master's or PhD, I don't remember which one it was, in psychology. Um, and he just always wanted to be a cop, so he reserved. So I get it when you're a reserve because that's what you enjoy. You've always wanted to do it, and you want to kind of give back to the community. But I don't get getting a master's or a PhD, or even lower level degrees for law enforcement, for a career in law enforcement, unless you are looking to be a real high up in law enforcement, um, just to get a higher pay grade. Um, but the incentives that they offer for law enforcement uh, in most places to have even a basic level associate's degree or anything like that um, is terrible. So I'm getting a private message on Discord. It says, the beginning of my message got cut off on Faded Blue Line vid. Maryland State Police set up a program during the academy with Frederick Community College, and we take our classes in the evening after normal training. The college teachers actually come to the academy to teach in the evenings. Our academy is 6 months long, uh, and the academy is pretty convenient. At the end of the academy, you walk out with a free associate's degree from Frederick Community College. So that is one of those programs where they make a deal with the college to make sure that's one of those I was saying you get a college degree program with an academy kicker to it. It's like, sometimes like with nursing and stuff, you have clinicals. It's I kind of consider it that way when you have a college that has a law enforcement degree program, a criminal justice degree program, where you come out of there with a certificate to work in law enforcement as well. I consider that kind of like the clinical, but not all of the academies are like that, unless they're changing. It's been a long time since I went through the academy, but very few people I know of who went through a police academy program, not a college degree program. Um, Very few of them came out with a college degree, but that's great that they did that for you guys. Um, Even though, I mean, let's face it, criminal justice degrees are about worthless. um, to work for the feds, you got to have a bachelor's degree. And if you're going to go work for the feds, if I could give any young officer um, any advice, is don't waste your time on a criminal justice degree. Go. They don't care in the feds. Like if you want to go work for the feds, they don't care what degree you have as long as you have a bachelor's degree. Go get it in something else. Get it in um, business, in finance, in accounting. Especially if you want to go work for something like the FBI, go get it in something like accounting or business, because more than likely a lot of your cases are going to be white collar crimes. Um, you're going to be investigating, stuff like that, and it would be a huge benefit for you. Um, uh, don't waste your time going and getting that liberal arts basket weaving degree. For the love of God, don't do that. But I personally think that criminal justice degrees are a waste of time when it comes to law enforcement. It's not needed. It does. I got absolutely nothing from a criminal. Mine is criminal justice psychology. Um, I got it, and it benefited writing the book and with the program, the Evading Honesty program. But other than that, it was kind of like I, you don't learn anything useful in a criminal justice degree program that you did not. I learned less, I think, in the degree program than I did from the academy when it comes to actual useful stuff to use in police work. So, all right, guys, we are coming to the end of the broadcast. Um, Again, make sure you hit the subscribe button down there in your YouTube if you don't mind, and share the link to this podcast to your law enforcement friends. Share it in any of the law enforcement groups you're a part of. Um, Here's the schedule for you guys. Unless something changes, I had to change it last week because I got called in to do some work. Um, Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time and Friday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time are the times of the broadcast. And of course, you can go on YouTube and re-listen to it anytime after that. So these are the times that we are live with the broadcast, and I am trying to get some people scheduled um, for a couple serious broadcasts about the effects of critical incidents on officers. Um, a lot of us don't talk about the incidents we have, and we bottle it up, and too many of us are committing suicide out there all the time because we bottle that kind of stuff up. I've had some pretty serious critical incidents that will remain in my brain for the rest of my life, and I still remember their faces. Uh, and it's always good to talk, and I think that this would be a good place for some of us to talk about that kind of stuff. Um, and it's not a talk of hey, look what I did kind of stuff. I'm not bringing. If I bring you on the show, it's not a hey, tell us how awesome it was to be in this critical incident. No, we're going to talk about what effects it had later on in your life. Um, so if you guys are interested in being a part of that, and helping other brothers and sisters in law enforcement who might be struggling, and talking about how you deal with it and how you've dealt with it and kept yourself positive, uh, let me know in the comments, or get on the Discord and let me know, or get on the Facebook uh, group and let me know, and we'll go from there. So I am going to leave you guys and enjoy the rest of my evening. You guys be safe out there.